There's a truth that Carl Jung psychology reveals to us. Within every soul lies a guiding voice, a whisper that knows where you must go next. But most of us drown it out with noise, waiting for the perfect plan, waiting for certainty, waiting for a life free of fear before we dare to move. Yet that waiting is the very reason our souls cannot rest. Jung believed that what we need most is already inside of us, often hidden beneath the layers of hesitation and doubt. And so, the unrest you feel is not because you are lost. It is because you already know the step you must take, and you keep postponing it. The universe does not ask you to leap across the entire mountain. It only asks you to take the step that is already within your reach. There is a reason why your soul feels restless, why no matter what you achieve, acquire, or surround yourself with, there remains a subtle ache inside that refuses to quiet down. This restlessness is not random. It is not a flaw in your character, nor a defect in your being. It is the natural pulse of life itself, knocking on the door of your awareness, urging you to recognize that you are not yet where you are meant to be. Many people mistake this unease as a curse, as if something is wrong with them. But the truth is far more liberating. Your restlessness is a compass, pointing you toward the growth, the truth, and the destiny that are still waiting for you. When you sense that you cannot quite settle, that nothing seems to fully satisfy, it is not because life has failed you, but because you have not yet stepped fully into life. The soul is not designed to rest in half-truths, in borrowed dreams, or in lives lived only for the approval of others. The very moment you stop listening to your deeper calling, restlessness will appear. It will whisper to you in moments of silence, tug at you in the middle of the night, and press against you in the spaces where you try to pretend that everything is fine. That gentle, sometimes unbearable ache is the sign that something greater inside you is trying to break through. Restlessness often disguises itself as dissatisfaction with your circumstances, your job, your relationships, your routines. But beneath all of that, the unease has a more profound message. You are being asked to grow beyond the limits you have placed upon yourself. Growth never arrives when everything feels comfortable and predictable. Growth knocks only when you sense that something is missing, when life feels too small for the vastness of what you secretly know you carry inside. The soul cannot rest in cages, and most cages are not built by the world, but by your own fear of what will happen if you step into the unknown. The mistake most people make is to try to silence the restlessness. They cover it with distractions, bury it under constant business, or numb it with temporary pleasures. But the more you avoid it, the louder it becomes. You cannot quiet a call by ignoring it. You can only quiet it by answering. That is why your soul keeps pressing against you, why it refuses to let you fully relax into a life that is not yet your own. It is not trying to torment you, it is trying to awaken you. Consider for a moment the times in your life when you felt most alive, even if only for a fleeting second. Perhaps it was when you took a risk, spoke a truth you were afraid to admit, or allowed yourself to be seen as you really are. In those moments, the restlessness subsided, not because everything around you changed, but because you aligned even briefly with your deeper self. The soul rests not in comfort, but in authenticity. It rests not when everything is perfect, but when you are moving in the direction of what you know is real for you. That is why restlessness is a gift. It is a messenger that refuses to let you betray yourself. It does not let you settle for the shallow when the depths are calling. It refuses to let you remain asleep when life wants you awake. Every sigh, every quiet discontent, every moment where you feel like something is missing is evidence that you are being nudged to step into a greater truth. And the moment you stop fighting that nudge and start listening to it, restlessness becomes energy. It transforms from heaviness into fire, from confusion into clarity, from ache into momentum. The soul will not allow you to rest in a version of yourself that is too small. It will not permit you to settle for less than what you are capable of becoming. It is not cruel. It is faithful. faithful to your wholeness, faithful to your destiny, faithful to the unfolding of the life that only you can live. You are not being punished by your unease. You are being prepared. Your restlessness is the signal that the time has come to rise, and the only way forward is to answer. So if your soul feels restless now, it is because life is whispering to you, reminding you that there is still more to step into, still more to uncover, still more to live. When life becomes chaotic, when everything around you feels uncertain and unstable, it is easy to believe that you are lost. You convince yourself that you've taken a wrong turn, that you've fallen off the path, that somehow you have failed. But the truth is, there is no mistake in the chaos. The turbulence you are facing is not an accident. It is the very way life calls to you. The soul rarely speaks in soft certainties. It often chooses to awaken you through confusion, because confusion is the only thing that forces you to stop living on autopilot and start asking the deeper questions. You may have noticed that the greatest turning points in your life did not come in moments of ease. They came when you felt stretched, when you felt cornered, when you had to face the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. Chaos, in its raw form, is life stripping away illusions. It removes the structures that kept you feeling safe but stagnant. It unsettles the plans you thought you could control, not to hurt you, but to move you closer to what you were always meant to discover. What you interpret as disorder is, in fact, a reordering. The things falling apart around you are not the end of your story, but the rearrangement necessary for you to step into the next chapter. Think about how the seasons shift. Autumn strips the trees bare, winter covers the earth in silence and stillness, and for a time it looks as though life has disappeared. Yet underneath, in that cold and emptiness, seeds are preparing to break through. That is how chaos works in your life. It looks like everything is collapsing, when in reality, something hidden is being planted. The soul uses these moments to push you deeper, to break you free from the superficial, and to guide you toward what is eternal. Without chaos, you would never stop clinging to the familiar, and without letting go of the familiar, you would never discover the vastness of what is possible. The call hidden in the chaos is subtle. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It waits. It waits for you to quiet the noise long enough to notice that the confusion you're feeling isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to redirect you. The very questions that keep you awake at night, the dissatisfaction that gnaws at your heart, the uncertainty that makes you restless. These are the soul's way of asking, are you ready to live a deeper truth? Are you willing to walk away from the surface level answers that never satisfied you anyway? Most people resist this call. They try to control everything, to rebuild the pieces exactly as they were before the storm came. They cling to what feels known, even if it is no longer alive. But the more you resist, the longer the chaos lingers. The moment you stop fighting and start listening, everything changes. You begin to see that the very things falling apart are the same things that no longer serve your growth. You begin to recognize that confusion is not a sign you are lost, but that you are in the middle of transformation. If you look back on your life, you will notice this pattern. There were times when you thought the chaos would destroy you, yet now you see how it shaped you. The ending you once resisted became the beginning you are grateful for. What you thought was failure turned into strength. What you thought was loss revealed space for something more real to enter. The call was always hidden in the chaos, but only after you walked through it could you see its wisdom. To live with trust in these moments is to allow the unknown to be your teacher. It is to stand in the middle of the storm and say, I may not understand this now, but I will not turn away from it. The soul is not asking you to have all the answers. It is asking you to stay present, to be willing to feel the discomfort without shutting it down, to allow the confusion to burn away what no longer belongs. In that willingness, the hidden path begins to appear. And so, when life feels like chaos, remember this: it is not the end. It is a sacred call, wrapped in disorder, guiding you toward a deeper truth you could not have reached otherwise. There is a part of you that you have tried to outrun, a part you have pushed aside, ignored, or covered up with masks of strength and perfection. This hidden side, the one you try not to look at, is the very reason your soul cannot find peace. You see, the unrest you feel is not just about the world outside you. It is about the world within you that you have not yet made peace with. Every thought you deny, every feeling you suppress, every truth you refuse to acknowledge gathers in the shadow of your being, and it waits. It waits for you to turn toward it, to see it, to listen to it. Until you do, it will not let you rest. The shadow is not your enemy, though it often feels that way. It is the unaccepted part of yourself, the anger you pretend not to feel, the fears you hide, the desires you are ashamed of, the wounds you cover with a smile. When you deny these pieces of yourself, they do not disappear. They grow louder. They reveal themselves through the very restlessness you wish would go away. They whisper in your thoughts. They stir in your emotions. They make themselves known through tension, anxiety, or dissatisfaction. They are not trying to ruin you. They are trying to return you to wholeness. Most people spend their lives running from this confrontation. They build identities around who they think they should be, and in doing so, they silence who they really are. They cling to roles and labels, trying to project an image that feels acceptable to others. Yet deep down, the shadow knows. It knows the truth you are hiding, and it will not stop pressing against the surface until you turn around and face it. That pressing is what you call unrest. That ache is the sign that there is something within you still unloved, still unseen, still waiting to be acknowledged. To face the shadow is not an easy task. It requires honesty, the kind of honesty that strips away illusions. It requires courage to look at yourself without judgment, to admit what you would rather deny, and to embrace the parts of you that feel inconvenient or unworthy. But it is only in this act of turning toward your shadow that your soul begins to breathe freely again. Avoidance is what creates the weight. Acceptance is what releases it. Think about it. How many times have you silenced your anger to appear composed, only to feel it burning inside? How often have you hidden your sadness to avoid being seen as weak, only to feel it drag you down in private? How many dreams have you suppressed because you thought they were impractical, only to feel a dull emptiness take their place? Every time you reject a part of yourself, you fracture your own wholeness. The soul cannot rest in fragments. It longs for integration, for the moment when every piece of you, light and dark, strong and fragile, proud and wounded, stands together without shame. The shadow is not there to punish you. It is there to teach you. Your anger teaches you where your boundaries have been crossed. Your sadness teaches you where your heart longs for connection. Your fear teaches you where your growth lies. Your desires teach you what truly matters to you. All of these parts, once rejected, transform into guidance when embraced. The unrest you feel is the signal that these teachers are still waiting for you. It is tempting to believe that peace will come by ignoring the shadow, by staying positive, by only focusing on the light. But this is an illusion. Light is only complete when it shines on every corner, including the dark ones. To deny your shadow is to live half a life, constantly haunted by the parts you left behind. To embrace it is to discover a power and a freedom you never imagined. It is to find rest not because the shadow disappears, but because you no longer fear it. The path to peace is not about perfection. It is about honesty. The soul will only rest when you stand whole, when the person you show to the world and the person you know inside are no longer strangers to each other. And so, if you feel restless now, it is because your shadow is calling. It is asking you to stop running, to turn around, and to finally make peace with yourself. There is a tension inside you that comes from trying to hold everything together, from trying to control every detail of your life as if you could bend reality to your will. You map out the future, you cling to timelines, you set expectations so rigid that when life refuses to obey them, you are left restless and defeated. Yet what you don't see is that this very need for control is what keeps your soul from resting. Peace is never found in the grip of control. It is found in surrender, the quiet, brave act of trusting that life knows what it is doing even when you don't. The human mind believes that certainty is safety. You tell yourself that if you can predict the outcome, if you can manage every variable, then you will finally feel secure. But the soul was not built for cages, not even the ones you construct out of plans and goals. Life is not a straight line, and it does not bow to your schedule. It flows like a river, bending, shifting, and carving new paths. To resist its current is to exhaust yourself, to drain your energy fighting against what was always meant to carry you forward. The unrest you feel is not because you are on the wrong path, but because you are trying to drag the river in a direction it was never meant to go. Surrender does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming passive or careless. It means loosening your grip on the illusion that you are in control of everything. It means releasing the desperate attempt to manipulate outcomes and instead leaning into trust. It is saying to yourself, I may not know where this leads, but I am willing to walk with it. The paradox is that the moment you stop clinging so tightly, you discover a freedom you could not taste before. The current of life begins to carry you, and what once felt heavy and impossible begins to feel lighter. Think about the times in your life when something unexpected disrupted your plans. At first, it may have felt like a disaster. You fought it, resisted it, tried to fix it. But looking back, you can see that what you thought was the end was, in fact, a beginning. The closed door pushed you toward an opening you would never have chosen on your own. The delay you cursed became the timing you needed. The loss you feared created the space for something more aligned to arrive. This is what happens when you surrender. You make room for life to show you possibilities beyond your imagination. Control feels safe, but it suffocates. Surrender feels frightening, but it liberates. When you try to control everything, you carry the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. When you surrender, you place that weight back where it belongs, not as a burden you must drag, but as a flow you can move with. This is why your soul cannot rest when you are consumed with control. It knows you are not meant to live clenched and rigid. It knows that freedom comes only when you trust the larger intelligence that moves through all things. The act of surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Each time you release the need to know every answer, you create space for clarity to arise. Each time you let go of the fear of what might happen, you allow life to show you what can happen. Each time you choose trust over control, you discover a deeper strength, a calmer center, and a peace that no amount of planning could ever give you. Your restlessness is the echo of your grip. The tighter you hold, the more you suffocate yourself. But when you begin to open your hand, when you allow yourself to breathe in the uncertainty instead of fighting it, rest begins to return. The peace you are searching for is not at the end of controlling everything. It is waiting in the moment you surrender. And so, if your soul feels restless now, it is because it is asking you to release the illusion of control and step into the freedom of trust. The deepest reason your soul cannot rest is because somewhere along the way, you abandoned who you really are. You tried to mold yourself into what the world wanted. You played roles that didn't belong to you, and you silenced the parts of yourself that didn't seem acceptable. Perhaps you did it for love, for approval, for safety, or simply because you believed it was the only way to survive. But the cost of denying your truth is always the same, a life that looks fine on the outside but feels empty on the inside. The unrest you carry is your soul's rebellion against living a life that is not authentically yours. Authenticity is not about perfection, nor is it about always being strong. It is about alignment, the alignment between what you feel inside and what you express outside. The misalignment between the two is what creates tension, exhaustion, and unease. When you smile while your heart is breaking, when you say yes while everything in you wants to say no, when you follow a path that looks respectable but feels lifeless, you fracture yourself, and a fractured self can never rest. The world has conditioned you to wear masks. It has taught you to adapt, to blend in, to present the version of yourself that will be praised or accepted. And for a time, those masks may serve you. They may protect you, help you fit in, even help you succeed in certain ways. But they come with a heavy price. The more you wear the mask, the more distant you become from your own essence. Eventually, you may even forget who you are beneath it, and still, the soul remembers. That memory is what keeps stirring inside you, what keeps whispering in the quiet moments, what refuses to let you feel fully at home in the life you've built on borrowed truths. To live authentically is frightening because it requires vulnerability. It means risking disapproval. It means letting go of the comfort of belonging to the crowd in order to belong to yourself. But the restlessness you feel will not subside until you take that risk. Your soul will not allow you to settle for a life that betrays your own essence. Peace does not come from being liked by everyone, from living up to society's expectations, or from fitting neatly into someone else's idea of who you should be. Peace comes only when you stand in the truth of your own being, even if it shakes the ground beneath your feet. Think about the moments when you felt most alive. They were not the moments when you were pretending, or pleasing, or shrinking yourself to be acceptable. They were the moments when you spoke your truth without apology, when you followed your curiosity without needing validation, when you allowed yourself to be seen as you are. In those moments, your soul rested, not because life was perfect, but because you were aligned. That is the secret your unrest is trying to remind you of. You cannot fake peace. You cannot trick your soul into resting by pretending to be someone else. The journey back to authenticity does not require dramatic gestures. It begins with small acts of honesty. It is saying no when you mean no, and yes when you mean yes. It is listening to the voice inside you that has been drowned out by noise and giving it space to speak again. It is choosing actions that feel true to your heart, even if they confuse those around you. It is giving yourself permission to be imperfect, flawed, and human, because authenticity is not about looking flawless. It is about being real. Each time you take a step toward authenticity, the restlessness loosens its grip. Each time you choose truth over approval, you feel lighter. Each time you express yourself honestly, you reclaim a part of yourself that had been exiled. Slowly, the scattered pieces of you return, and wholeness begins to form. That wholeness is what allows the soul to rest. Not because life has no challenges, but because you are finally living in harmony with yourself. So if your soul cannot rest now, it is because it is waiting for you to stop betraying your own truth, and to finally give yourself permission to live as you really are. There is a tendency in all of us to overcomplicate the journey, to imagine that peace will come only once we have everything figured out, only once every piece is in place, only once we've climbed to some distant mountaintop. We keep telling ourselves that rest will come later, after the perfect job, after the right relationship, after we've healed every wound and mastered every lesson. And so we delay peace, waiting for the grand arrival, the perfect moment when we can finally breathe. But the truth is, your soul doesn't need you to take 1,000 steps right now. It only needs you to take the next one. The whisper you've been ignoring, the small nudge you've been postponing, that is where your rest begins. You already know what that step is. It has been speaking to you quietly over and over, even as you've tried to silence it with logic, excuses, or fear. It might be as simple as having an honest conversation you've avoided, starting a project that has lingered in your heart, or letting go of something that has weighed you down for too long. It doesn't need to be dramatic or world-changing. The soul doesn't measure progress in grand leaps. It measures progress in truthfulness, in alignment, in the willingness to move with honesty. However small that movement may appear, the reason you feel restless is not because you are far from your destination, but because you are ignoring the step that is right in front of you. You don't need to see the whole road to move forward. In fact, if life showed you the entire path, you would likely feel overwhelmed. That is why you are given only the next step, the one you can take now, the one that belongs to this moment. The unrest will linger until you honor it, because deep down, your soul cannot pretend it doesn't hear its own call. We often wait for certainty before acting. We tell ourselves we'll begin once we're stronger, once we're ready, once the fear has gone. But readiness never comes in the way we imagine. Readiness is created in the act itself. Fear dissolves when you step into it, not before. Clarity unfolds after you move, not while you stand still. The very peace you are craving is hidden inside the action you keep delaying. This is why the soul cannot rest until you take that step. It knows that your freedom is waiting on the other side of your hesitation. Think of the moments in your past when you finally acted on something you had been avoiding. Perhaps you made a choice that terrified you, yet once you did, the weight lifted. Perhaps you spoke a truth you had swallowed for too long, and suddenly you could breathe again. That relief, that lightness, was not because everything was resolved instantly. It was because you stopped betraying yourself. You honored the whisper. You moved, even if imperfectly. That is the rhythm your soul longs for. Not perfection, not control, but movement in alignment with your truth. There is a deceptive comfort in waiting. Waiting feels safe. It convinces you that you're being careful, that you're protecting yourself, that you're being wise. But underneath, waiting is often fear disguised as patience. It keeps you in the illusion of control, but it also keeps you restless because a part of you knows that you are postponing what you already know to do. Peace never comes from waiting endlessly. It comes from stepping into the unknown with faith that whatever meets you there will shape you, teach you, and carry you forward. The step you are resisting does not have to be perfect. It does not have to guarantee success. It only has to be true. And when you take it, even if you stumble, you will feel a shift inside you. The restlessness will soften, not because the entire journey is complete, but because you honored the truth of this moment. The soul does not demand that you arrive. It only asks that you move. So if your soul feels restless now, it is because it is waiting for you to take the step you already know is yours to take.